Om Sarve bhavantu sukhinah, sarve santu niramaya, sarve bhadrani pashyantu, ma kaschid dukhapat bhavet, loka samasta sukhino bhavantu. Shri Gurubhyo Namah. आज का भाषण अंग्रेजी में होगा. So, the subject that's been given to me, I think after consulting me, I forgot, is yoga beyond asanas. Now, the yoga beyond asana does not mean that I am eliminating asanas from the picture. It's an integral part of one particular kind of yoga, not all. There are great bhaktas. Now, if you understand, the Bhagavad Gita has 18 chapters, and all 18 chapters have been called yoga. You will not find a description of yogasana or any such. Of course, there is some pranayama and so on in the 6th chapter called Dhyana Yoga. But generally, bhakti is also considered an yoga. The path of wisdom, jnana, is also jnana yoga. Work without worrying too much about the result, especially when you're working for others, is considered karma yoga, sankhya yoga. So every chapter is called an yoga. So it cannot be that yoga is confined to only asana. This is what I mean. I am a practitioner of yoga asanas. I've been doing yoga asanas from the age of 10. And I think I have derived a lot of advantages through the practice. It's probably that which is keeping me going at 77, right? Except for a little bit of aches here and there, I seem to be fine. This is the secret of the practice, one of yoga, asanas, and the other, of course, is Kriya Yoga. Now that's the subject. What I am looking at is, it's not just the physical practice that is important in yoga. So where has the word yoga been used from ancient times? If you look at the Bhagavad Gita, at the last end of every chapter of the Gita, there is a statement. It says, Iti Srimad Bhagavad Gita, so this is the Bhagavad Gita. Upanishad, so it is the teaching of the Upanishad. What does the Upanishad teach? Brahma Vidyayam, knowledge of the Supreme Brahman. Then there is one word introduced, Yoga Shastre. Then Sri Krishna Arjuna Samvadi and so on. But that word, Yoga Shastre, cannot be put there without any reason. Why? Because most of our minds, in their normal state of affairs, while we live in this world, are caught up in so many actions, activities, reactions, joy, sorrow. A mind of that sort, which is involved only with things that it seems to know, which are accessed by the 5 senses, the Panchendriyas, cannot understand Brahma Vidya. But theoretically, yes, one can understand. There are great scholars of the Upanishads. Theoretically, they can quote, they can talk, but to understand the wisdom of the Upanishad, which of course is Shruti, the earliest teachings that have come to us in this country. However, the effect is not confined to only this country, because it's a universal teaching. Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu is from the Upanishad. So, to understand the subtle truths which have been expressed by the Upanishads, which the Gita itself calls Brahma Vidya, one needs to change the setup of our mind. This is yoga. In that, some forms of yoga include asana and pranayama. Now this is today become very popular. We have the International Yoga Day, right? So even I went to Tashkent recently for the International Yoga Day. So it become popular thanks to some people. It has become popular, I understand. But there is the tendency to look at yoga only as acrobatics, or standing on your head and waving your legs up, which is all good. I'm not saying don't wave too fast, you might fall down, and so on. But what is the essence of this yoga? So where should we look for the... I started with the Gita, Bhakti Yoga, Jnana Yoga. It is all yoga, right? Described by Vyasa as yoga. But there is a particular text which is the, we call the Bible of yoga, philosophy, practice and psychology. And this is the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali. So now I want to put you into a little bit of understanding of the whole structure of these darshanas. In ancient India, still exists, of course, not ancient India, but the darshanas. The darshanas, you can't call darshana a system of philosophy. Because the very word darshana means face to face. I had your darshan, you had my darshan. Like in Nepal, when they greet, they say darshan. So darshan means face to face, to see, to actually experience face to face is darshan. So it's very important to note that the ancient Indian streams of philosophy have been called darshanas, which means they are basically, even though some are voluminous, attempts to find the reality in different ways, to find the truth in different ways. We shouldn't forget that we have 6 darshanas, Shat darshanas. The earliest darshana is the Nyaya darshana. In Nyaya darshana, there is no mention of yoga, there is no mention of meditation, there is not even a meditation of Ishvara. It's one of the earliest. Nyaya, you know what Nyaya means, even in Hindi. Nyaya means justice, to prove something through argument, through discussion, to use your brain or mind to understand a statement which has been given. So Nyaya, all these include Nyaya. It basically also means, Nyayikaran means to defend your thesis. Now, Nyaya therefore does not touch upon the spiritual, except in passing mention that we are not touching the spiritual field, which means they accept that there is, but that's not their concern. Even the Shastra called Tarka, which means how to engage in a dialogue, how to argue in a debate, is all there in the Nyaya philosophy, which is the reason, darshana. It's the reason why Adi Shankara, who was an expert in all the darshanas, could easily defeat people in their debates. So they pinpointed how to go about it. Then we have the next darshana, which is Vaisheshika. Vaisheshika darshana again does not touch upon anything spiritual. In fact, Vaisheshika believes that this world, like the modern scientists say, was produced through chemical combination with an innate intelligence, which means there is no God sitting up there in a workshop, fitting screws and hammering human beings into shape and throwing down into the earth and then kicking them also in the butt when required and so on. This is not there in no concept of Ishvara in the Vaisheshika. One of the famous teachers of Vaisheshika was none other than the sage Kannada. He's also called a rishi, mind you. Kannada, who gave us the word anu for atom. And it is from Kannada that the philosophy of the atheists called Charvakas came. Even in the time of Ramayana, you will find the Charvakas existed. When Sri Ram is wanting to go to the forest, a bunch of Charvakas come to the palace and say, "But why are you going?" Valmiki Ramayana. "Why are you going?" So, "Because I have to keep a promise." They said, "There is nothing like that. There is no keeping promises and there is no reward in heaven." So what is the aim of life? They say, "To eat, drink, make merry and die." Finished. Charvakas. This is derived from Vaisheshika Darshana. Also chemical combination and so on and so on. Atoms, molecules. Now, the next darshana is the darshan of Kapila, which is called Sankhya darshan. Now in Sankhya, if you define the word Sankhya, it means figures, Sankhya. Well, there's a lot of discussion on all that. Probably the Arabic numerals were derived from the Sankhya numerals. The 1, 2, 3 that we have today in a little bit different shape. Now, the great Muni Kapila is supposed to be the founder of the Sankhya system. He is so important that in the Gita, Krishna declares, "Among the Munis, I am Kapila. Among the Vedas, I am Samaveda." Music. Among the mountains, I am Meru, and so on. He says, "Among the rishis, I am Kapila." It's so important. Now, Kapila Muni founded the Sankhya system. Now, in the Sankhya system, for the first time, while other things are discussed, like even geometrical truths which require a lot of equations, which do not enter the heads of people like us, like me, not you. IITians must be knowing all the figures. But even that occurs in the Sankhya system. I'll give you an example. Now, mathematics has proved that every straight line is part of a circle. You will say, how is this possible? Algebraically, mathematically, it has been proved that every straight line is part of an infinite circle. Which is, as it goes along, then it curves and becomes a circle. We don't see it with our eyes. Now we can only find it through calculations, mathematical calculations, which doesn't enter thick heads like mine. Sankhya does that very beautifully. One example, there are many. The Sankhya Pravanchana Sutra says that if you are walking on a long road which is curved, if you look just 1 foot in front of you, you will see only a straight line. When you take the whole thing, then you see the curve. Which means this, what you see as a straight line, is part of that curve. I'm just giving you some rough examples, the Sankhya teachings. But for the first time, the concept of Ishvara is discussed in Sankhya. Now, according to Sankhya, Ishvara is the sum total and essence of all primordial wisdom, which is omnipresent, omnipotent, and omniscient. This is Ishvara, according to Kapila, in the Sankhya. First time you see the mention of Ishvara. However, that Ishvara, according to Sankhya, is not generally possible to contact by us human beings. So while it's not an atheistic philosophy, it's an agnostic philosophy. generally. Well, there is Ishvara, primordial essence of wisdom, omnipresent, omnipotent, omniscient, but I cannot, what does it mean to me? Then comes the Yoga Darshana. Why? Because the subject today is Yoga beyond asanas. Yoga Darshana. After Yoga Darshana, of course, there are two other darshanas, which is Mimamsa, Uttara Mimamsa, and Purva Mimamsa, which is Vedanta. Basic one is rituals, ceremonials from the Brahmanas, and the other is Vedanta, pure Vedanta. In between comes the Yoga Darshana. Now in Yoga Darshana, for the first time, Patanjali says that this Ishvara presented by Kapila in Sankhya, this Ishvara can also be contacted under certain conditions by us, by human beings, by surrendering to that Ishvara. Now the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali, Swami Vivekananda has written a commentary on it. It's called Raja Yoga, small commentary, part of his talks. Now, this Patanjali's Yoga Sutra is the standard textbook for all who need to study the yoga, study the science of yoga. Now, it starts, the Yoga Sutras are divided into 4 chapters. There is the first chapter called the Samadhipada, the second chapter called the Sadhanapada, the third chapter called Vibhutipada, and the fourth called Kaivalyapada. These are the 4 chapters. Now if you notice, the first chapter is Samadhipada, it's not practice. In the second chapter comes practice, Sadhanapada. So what does it mean? It simply means that you should know where you're going. So first the whole chart is laid down in the Samadhipada. What is Samadhi? What is a state of consciousness different from ordinary? If there is such a thing, what are the different stages of Samadhi? Is it merely only a trance state, or does it abide with us forever after the trance? All these things, Nirvikalpa Samadhi and so on, are discussed. Then comes the practice part, which is the Sadhanapadas, chapter 2. Now in chapter 2, the first line of chapter 2, which is sadhana, practice, is tapas, Yoga Sutras, tapas, swadhyaya, Ishvara pranidhana, Kriya Yoga. This is the first line, which means tapas. Now when you say tapas, people usually think standing in the river up to the neck with their hands held up and so on. Now this tapas, today if you do that tapas, you will probably get only pneumonia. No other siddhi is going to come. Now, this tapasya was meant for Treta Yuga, Dwapara Yuga and so on, not for Kali Yuga. Kali Yuga tapasya means, you must understand that the word tapasya is built up from the root tapa. Tapa means heat. So how is heat produced? When there are 2 opposing forces and friction, then there is heat produced. Tapas. So what does it mean in this context? In this context it means, tapas is the heat generated when one person stands up and says, I am swimming against the stream. See, most people are, you know how it is, swimming with the stream. The other day I was telling somebody, you should learn more yoga, and the answer was, and the question was, will it produce more money? It's okay, legitimate, but what does it mean? Which means everyone is nowadays flowing only in one stream. And that stream is physical wealth, physical acquiring things, satisfying the 5 senses, and so on. This is the usual move, nothing wrong. This is how it is. Now, in the midst of that, one person stands up and says, no, I'm going to swim against the stream. I want to see that which is beyond the senses. Not what is only felt by the sense organ, but is there something beyond? If there is, I need to see this. And if it is my true essence, then I need to find it. So that turning direction creates a lot of internal and external friction. That is tapas. Every day we encounter it. Not only in this. Everybody is moving along a certain way and you turn around and go in the reverse direction, naturally heat is produced. Plus, it also means the burning desire to find the truth. This is tapasya also. Burning heat. Tapasya. Then, what is the next? Swadhyaya. Swadhyaya means self-study. Not just spoon-feeding or filling yourself with information. In fact, nowadays, in this age of artificial intelligence and computers and IT, there is no need to fill your brain with information. Whenever you want to press the button, it is there, right or wrong, but it's there. Right? So you can actually keep your brain free of that. So, Swadhyaya means self-study. It comes from Shravana, meaning hearing something. Now I'm talking and you're hearing it. Manana is then going back and thinking about what was said. Not as if you go out of this hall and it is over. Think about it. Manana, Swadhyaya. So then, you study what has been given to you. Not just, so there's a difference between hearing and listening. Hearing now, everybody is hearing, but some may be listening unpointedly. And that requires swadhyaya, self-effort is required. Swadhyaya. Now, there's another meaning for swadhyaya, which is swa-adhyaya, studying yourself. When you say studying yourself, please don't suddenly jump to the conclusion that I start by saying, I am the Supreme Brahman. You're not, at least at the moment. So here swadhyaya, self-study means studying yourself as you are in this world, how you behave, what are your reactions while surrounded by this world. This is swadhyaya, not simply myself is the Supreme, but it is not, it's full of dirt. No, it is the Brahman. No, maybe, but not at the moment, you don't know it. Self-study is to see where the dirt lies. If you don't know that, how are you going to clean it? If I don't know where my plumbing is clogged, how do I clean it? Right? So this is swadhyaya, understanding your own self, not imagining that I am the Brahman. That stage comes, there is no imagination, it's an actuality. So, swadhyaya. Then comes Ishvara Pranidhana. We're just looking at the first sentence of Sadhanapada. Ishvara Pranidhana. Why Ishvara Pranidhana? Because Patanjali accepts that there is the essence of all wisdom, omnipresent, omnipotent, omniscient, which can be accessed by the human mind, provided it agrees that I don't know. It's very difficult to say I don't know. Very difficult. Everybody knows. That is the problem. You just have to say, yoga, everybody knows what is yoga. Right? In their own way. So to say, okay, I don't know, let me start looking at it, is very difficult. So Ishvara Pranidhana means surrendering to that primordial wisdom. When you discover, no matter what acrobatics you do with your mind, you are not able to find a solution. Of course you have to try. Nobody says that you have to put your brain in cold storage. Not in the philosophy of this country. No. What is the Gayatri that you chant daily? What does it mean? What is the last sentence? Dhyo yona prachodayat, may my intelligence be stimulated. Nobody wants you to be put in a freezer, no. But the keenest and the sharpest intellect very soon discovers its limitations and then says, is there some other way out? Other than this structural 1 + 1 = 2, 2 और 2 5 हो सकते हैं क्या? हो सकता होगा, क्योंकि yogis have said so, maybe. Now there you are surrendering your intellect after doing all the exercises required and saying, now, okay. Now, I want to tell you a little, I think we have time, I have a little story. It was not invented by me, but I've heard it from somebody. Imagine that you have a glass box, okay? A transparent glass box. You can see through. It has, except for the lid, all other things are there. And it is divided in the middle somewhere, not in the middle, a little bit on the side, by another glass piece as a wall, dividing this area into 1/4 and 3/4, let's say. Now, in this long one, the 3/4 length, and also in the small one, there are these little wafer-like creatures. Just imagine, this is a story. There are no wafer-like. There are wafer-like creatures. When I say wafer-like, they are wafer-thin. So thin that they have no concept of height or depth. They have only consciousness of 2 dimensions. They can move this way, they can move that way. Beyond that, they don't know whether one can go up or down, they know only this. Now, in the small part, the 1/4 part, is very beautiful. This is barren like a desert, where the rest of the people are there, rest of the wafers. This is nice and beautiful. You can hear music. Some of these little wafers are enjoying the cool breeze. Beautiful out there. Maybe eating fruit, I don't know. Now, on the other side are these people, these wafers, in a terrible world of desert and heat and so on. And so crowded they're not even able to. But they can see the other guys enjoying through the wall. And their eyes are always there. Please consider this as a hypothesis. So, they can see the other guys enjoying. They cannot reach there. Why? Because they don't know how to go like this. They know only this movement. 2 dimensions. So they are trying hard. Pushing, jumping, hitting others to go in there. But no, there is a barrier. You cannot go. Now you or I or one of us is actually standing there and looking down the box. The roof, there is no roof, no lid. You actually want to take this fellow who's struggling here and put him on that side so that he can enjoy. But you cannot. You know why? Because they are constantly moving. When you try to, it is gone there. But their effort is going on all the time. They're always moving. It's not possible. Then you find in one corner there are a group, 2 or 3 of them, who have tried it all and have understood that this is not the way. And they are relaxing. So you catch them and put them on that side. Now they don't even know how they came, but they are enjoying. I'm giving you somewhat of an example of Ishvara Pranidhana. Ishvara is watching, but how to catch you? Always running. Calm down and sit. Then it's possible to throw you on the other side. So Ishvara Pranidhana. So tapas, swadhyaya, Ishvara Pranidhana. Kriya Yoga. This is Kriya Yoga. IIT Kriya Yoga. This is how Patanjali describes it. So, then in the beginning, when Patanjali describes yoga, he starts with Atha Yoga Anushasanam. Here begins the study of yoga. And the next sentence is Yogas Chitta Vritti Nirodha. Yoga is the nirodha of the vrittis of the chitta. Is that English or Hindi? Anyway, it means chitta. Look, vritti is the movement that happens in the mind. Constant movement. And that is thought. Thought is the moment that constantly happens. These are the vrittis. Some may be good vrittis when you are happy. Some may be depressing when you are sad. But there is always this moment. Desire fulfillment, next desire fulfillment. Sadness because you can't get it, happiness because you got it. I know people who are so happy that suddenly they got a heart attack. Yeah, because the blood suddenly went up the head. So, it's not always depression that causes a heart. Anyway, it doesn't matter. So, this constant movement, which we call the mind, is actually a collection of vrittis or thoughts. Positive, negative, neutral, it doesn't matter. It is constantly moving, from the time we are born, we are watching, chattering, moving. Even when somebody says, I'm nowadays learned to meditate deeply, sir, now you see, I'm completely free of thought. Who is saying this? Me. When I say me, what is their thought? Right? So, Patanjali is saying, looking at it from another angle, that if there is some way to get rid of these vrittis, this movement of thought, then the mind that remains after that is not the mind that we ordinarily know of. You can call that the Atman. Very often we think that the mind, when it is free, or the mind when it is calm, is the Atman. No, when the mind is calm and disappears, then there is the Atman. Let's put it this way. Today, all that we know of through our minds, including if we say, I know the truth, is part of thought. And what produces thought? The brain. Sankhya says the subtlest part of your food that you eat goes to produce your mind. So they're talking about the brain, because if the mind was immaterial, there is no need of food. It does not depend on food. But definitely, the mind, the brain depends on food. If you don't eat for many days, you cannot even think. You cannot think. So, I'm saying that what we normally call meditation, mind, whatever, is produced by the brain and its thoughts. And what is the reality is beyond the capacity of the brain, is beyond the brain. So which means, but is there a way to access it? There is a way to access it when we understand fully that it cannot be accessed through the normal means. Then what happens? Surrender to the Ishvara. We try hard, we cannot do it. Then the mind gets tired. Now this mind is the brain actually, it is not the real mind, because it is thought, and thought is produced by the brain. When this ends, so yoga is basically how to end this constant circuit that goes on, and which keeps us always centered in the mind which is made of thought, not beyond. So, here it means yogas chitta vritti nirodha means to be free of the vrittis, first to understand that this is the problem. Understanding is very important. And then to say, how do we get free from this? And when you are free from this, then what remains is not the ordinary mind or the brain, it is that which is beyond. You cannot touch it, it can touch you. But there is a condition for it to touch you, when your mind is absolutely quiet. Then he goes around saying how this agitation has come about, the root of this agitation being desire, fulfillment and non-fulfillment of desire. And then is there a way to quieten the mind and make it so subtle that the vrittis settle down? That's where the ashtangas, the 8 angas of yoga are taught. Nowhere does Patanjali call his yoga Ashtanga Yoga. Popularly we call it because it has 8 angas. He calls it Kriya Yoga, as we see, the first sentence of Sadhana Pada. So, what are the yama, niyamas and so on, which is part of the Ashtanga Yoga? First, yamas and niyamas. Certain rules and regulations have to be followed. One is to keep the mind free of intoxicants which constantly screw up the brain. Please do not think that what you get on a cannabis high is samadhi. It's an obstacle to samadhi. So, keeping out all external substances that make you feel nice but are actually false. And simplifying your life, not getting agitated, keeping your anger and other emotions under control. These are the yama niyamas. We don't have to specify. It means moderate living. Krishna, while teaching Arjuna in the Gita, yama niyamas, used a simple sentence. He said, this yoga is not for him who eats too much and eats too little. There's no point in saying, I'm doing 10 days upavas and all the time worrying I'm hungry. The mind is not at peace. So this yoga is not for him who eats too much or eats too little, sleeps too much or sleeps too little. These are the two, which means moderation is required in all actions. In all thoughts, in all actions, there has to be a balance and a moderation. Now this moderation differs from person to person. You cannot generalize this. In the beginning, if you're too much caught up in excess, and if you reduce it, it's wonderful. As you go on, you begin to reduce it more and more. So it's a very relative affair. But overindulgence and non-indulgence are not yoga. The yogi eats food. Yogi doesn't starve himself. But he eats food enough to survive, enough for sustenance, not eating because I enjoy eating. Now this is called sattvic food habits. Now when you say sattvic food habits, the other day I met somebody who said, my food habits are sattvic. I have only 1 meal a day. Okay, great. I don't eat any animal products. Okay, great. And then I saw that 1 meal. 50 people who are sleeping outside IIMs can eat it for 50 days. I'm exaggerating a bit. That is the 1 meal. Okay? And just because I don't eat onion and garlic, it doesn't become sattvic food if I eat 1 kg, 10 kgs of food at one sitting. Sattvic food also has to be the quantity that you eat, how much you eat and what you eat. So, this is the criteria that you have to look at to simplify your habits and the practice of meditation regularly, which comes in the part yama, niyama, asana. Now, in the Yoga Sutras, Patanjali dismisses asanas with one sentence. He does not describe any asana. He says, Sthira Sukham Asanam. Any posture in which you can sit for a long time in Sukha, that is your asana. He doesn't refer to any other asana. But all the yogic texts, especially from the Natha Sampradaya, which have come to us like Yoga Pradipika and so on, they have fully described how to do asanas. The thing is, find the right teacher. Find the right teacher and don't get into trouble. Very important when you do asanas. Don't turn your head like this and then find that you are unable to turn it back. You find the right teacher. So, yoga asana, then pranayama. Now, pranayama is a very important part of Kriya Yoga, as many of you know. Now, what is the need of pranayama and how is it connected to chitta vritti nirodha? How is it connected in calming the mind? Now, this is very simple. When you are agitated, watch your breath and see how it is. The breath is very agitated, very fast, very agitated. When you are quiet and calm, like you're doing something which you really enjoy, not a glass of beer on Sunday, but something else. Or you're painting, or you're listening to music, or you're doing something you really love to do, like gardening. Watch your breath. Shant, very calm and quiet. So if the condition of the mind is influencing the rhythm of the breath, the question is, can we then change the rhythm of the breath and bring about the condition of the mind that you require? This is the essence of pranayama. There are many kinds of pranayams, but this is the essence of pranayama. The other is, prana is life energy. Although we say pranayama for breathing exercises, which are in yoga, actually they are shvasayan. The breath is shvasa. But it's, fortunately for us, linked intimately with the prana, with the life energy. So if you control your shvasa, you can control your prana. So the whole process of pranayama, therefore, is to get some kind of a voluntary control over your prana. Now this is very interesting. There are many autonomous functions of the body. Many. Circulation of blood is autonomous. We have no control over it. Even when you're sleeping, it's happening. Right? Digestion. We can chew food and swallow it. That's about it. The acids that are working, the digestion, that's not under our control. It happens. If it goes wrong, you can take a few medicines, but you're not under control. Then, the heartbeat, we don't get up in the morning and say, beat, and it goes on, even when you're sleeping. And when it stops, one can do nothing. Nowadays, of course, you can revive for some time, but it'll come back again. So, these are autonomous functions, including the breath. You don't say breathe and therefore it's going on. Since you are born, you are breathing. And when it stops, we know what happens. So, breath being so important, you can live without food sometime, you can live without water for some time, you cannot live without breathing for more than maybe 1.5 minutes, unless you are an accomplished yogi. It's so important, but we give no attention to the breath. We give attention to everything except the breath. And the breath is the link between our ordinary mind and the extraordinary mind which has no vrittis. So how do you do that? First, become aware of the breath. This is the beginning of pranayama. Even you do Vastrika and you have no attention to your breath, it's of no use. Might give a little bit of hyperventilation, but beyond that, nothing. So, pranayam or shwasayan, as we call it, is an exercise to bring the mind to a state of quietness. There are many kinds of pranayam which cannot be discussed in a public, audience like this, but there are, like Kriya has its own pranayam. There are different modes of breathing which called breath work, working with the breath. Then comes, after pranayam, is pratyahara. Now, pratyahara has been variously translated. Many people say pratyahara is like withdrawal of the senses. I would say pratyahara means the capacity to switch on and switch off on anything that you want to think of. A yogi has the capacity, while he is thinking of something, momentarily shut it off and fix his attention on another. It's not attention deficiency syndrome. It's not that. But the capacity to shift. And that helps also emotionally. Because if something happens which deeply moves you, and you're in a state of grief, through pratyahara, you will be able to slowly come out of it and not let it remain for years. This has to be learned only through practice, starting with pranayam. And then from pratyahara comes dharana, dhyana and samadhi. All the 8 angas are over. I would say that the 8th anga, which is called samadhi, is actually not a limb, but the culmination. So one can call it saptanga yoga, if you like, 7 angas. So what is dharana? Dharana is the capacity that the mind develops through practice to fix its attention on any one object, idea, sound, or any one of these exclusively without being disturbed by other ideas. When dharana continues for a time, it becomes automatically dhyana, which means then without an effort, you are connected to that on which you are doing your dharana. Now the culmination of dhyana is samadhi, where the person who is meditating is no longer relevant. The object is no longer relevant. There's only the stream that is flowing, which is called meditation. This is samadhi, in which one goes deep into oneself and realizes that in true essence, we are not the body or the mind, or even the intellectual thoughts that go through our brains, but something else which cannot be defined by the mind. This is called samadhi. Now, there are different variations of samadhi, we can go into that. This is samadhi. Now, what is the criteria for samadhi? You can also attain samadhi by constantly smoking cannabis. That is not samadhi. Why? A person who enters into samadhi, once entered into samadhi, and comes back to this earth in normal consciousness, is no longer the same person. There is a great change that has happened which you can notice in that person. First, the mind has calmed down. Second, the mind has attained such levels of attention or concentration that through 1 second a person can fix the attention on something. Plus, the mind has also become kind and compassionate. If these 3 factors are there, then a person has entered into samadhi. If somebody says, I am entered into samadhi and comes back the same old rogue, then he wouldn't have entered samadhi. Not possible. So, this is the subject today. So, not just what I'm trying to say, is that look beyond ordinary postures, which are good of course, but that there is a deeper understanding of yoga which will take you to the essence of your being, which, fortunately for us, is the essence of the universe. Can you imagine? I'm a limited human being, then I keep in tune with that which is unlimited, which becomes my true essence. What a wonderful experience is that. And every human being has a potential to do that, provided one is ready to follow the angas and go step by step. Now, having said this, I do not include the child prodigies, the young, like Ramana Maharshi or Sri Ram, who were born with, after years of past life sadhana, who could understand this without practicing hardly anything. There is a category. Let's not. Now, Ramana Maharshi attained his understanding of the Supreme by simply asking the question, who am I? Now, if I sit down and wear a cowpin and say, who am I? Who am I? Do I reach that who am I? Tell me. And if I am in a Western country, they might take me to a psychiatrist. This guy doesn't know who he is. So, Ramana Maharshi is Ramana Maharshi. We cannot imitate Ramana Maharshi. We can understand theoretically probably what happened to him and so on. You must understand that here was a person who at the age of 15 suddenly found out through actual realization that he was not the body. He didn't do any sadhana till then. What sadhana did he do? Nothing. One day he got up, he lay down in the bed and said, here I am. And what is this lying here? My body? So I cannot be my body. And my mind, it belongs to me, so I cannot be my mind. Now I'm wearing this jacket, this is M, including the jacket. If I take the jacket and hang it there, that is not me. Why? Because it is mine. So these are extraordinary cases. Therefore, for normal people like us, we need to go step by step systematically, and this is what the yoga of Patanjali teaches us. Perhaps at some point you might suddenly tune yourself with your fast, and then the progress is fast. Possible. I'm not ruling that out. Who knows who you actually are, how many births you have passed through, why you sitting? Nobody knows. You have to discover it yourself. Now, please don't use this as an excuse. Why? Sir, nowadays I don't practice Kriya. Why? I have attained. So, I rest my case. To the young people who are here, I need to tell you, please experiment and find out for yourself. You don't have to believe a word of what I said. Experiment, go into it, find out for yourself. And one day, if you really discover that in true essence, you are connected to an infinite energy which can be tapped, how wonderful it is. Then you have learned the Universal Institute of Technology. UIT.
Thank you, sir, for your profound and insightful talk. I'm sure sir's words have stirred up a lot of curiosity amongst the audience. The floor is now open for questions, and I hope a lot of interesting questions have already been submitted through the QR codes displayed. So now I invite Professor Jyoti Kumar on stage to coordinate the Q&A session.
Professor Jyoti Kumar, I have only one thing to say, that you should let me go in around half an hour or 40 minutes. Huh?
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
So, while I think many questions which were put on using the QR codes in the hall and also the links that have been sent have already been answered by you in your session.
So can you find out those which are not?
Yes. So Nishant Verma and Sabyasachi both have asked the same question, similar in intention. They're saying, how does Patanjali Yoga Sutras guide a beginner in meditation?
The Yoga Sutras of Patanjali, first you get a copy of it. Fortunately, translations are available. There is one translation by Swami Vivekananda called Raja Yoga. Read through it, and there are simple ways of how to move forward. He has himself described. There is another commentary on the translation, commentary on the Yoga Sutras, written by self, which is called Yoga Also for the Godless. Now, why did I write that? Because there are so many people who want to practice yoga, they are put off. When they go to somebody, you have to recite this, you have to do this, otherwise you cannot. So I said, let's also, because after all, yoga is derived from Sankhya. In Sankhya, there is not even a concept of an Ishvara that one can touch. So even if one is not a believer, one can still practice yoga. But all the guidelines are there. Please remember, the title is Yoga Also for the Godless, not Yoga for the Godless. Because I am of the opinion that there is some being which you call God or Ishvara, whatever you want to call it. So, the guidelines are already there. You just need to read it carefully.
Thank you, sir. Ishan Gaur, he has put up a question. One of your talks, you mentioned that there's a shortcut, and that is to cut your ego in half.
Now,
so he's asking, how do I do that?
Yeah, you see this? I also said that it is the most difficult cut. Because, it's very easy to say cut your ego into two, but you know how difficult it is. Because people, is there a shortcut? What are we doing in all the practices of meditation, all bhakti yoga where you surrender? In all these practices, you are slowly sawing off that ego. In life's experiences also, slowly they saw it from the bottom. There is no root left and then it collapses. But when I said shortcut, I was using the word only to the similarities. Shortest cut the ego into two. That didn't mean that it is easy to do that. It is not at all easy. In fact, I would say it is the longest cut. Because it's one of the most difficult things. Even if you know a smattering of something, people don't pretend to be. So what do? It's not so easy. But keep in mind that the ego plays a great role not only in glorifying ourselves, but also sometimes bringing misery to us. Simple example. My ego is so big, and then somebody calls me a fool. Right? If my ego is. Now, if I didn't know English, what would I do? Somebody saying fool. I know only Hindi. I might think you're calling me a fool. There is no effect. Right? So, to be free of this ego, starting point is not to worry what others think about us. This is important. You do what you have to do. Don't worry what others think. As long as you are not stepping on the shoes. Yeah, agreed.
Thank you, sir. Rugved is a student here who's asking, is this complete truth that one receives, is it same for all, or does it have specific variations to specific persons?
Yeah. Now here, Einstein gave us the theory of relativity, right? It's a universal theory. It's not that one person it is true and for the other person it is not. It's a universal truth that has come. In the same way, this teaching is universal. It's not true to some and not true to some. All I can say is some find and some do not. That I agree. But that you do not find or haven't found doesn't mean that it is not there. You get what I'm trying to say?
Nilbul has asked, is the aim of life to attain happiness?
Huh?
Is the aim of life to attain happiness? That's her question, his or her.
So what is the question?
Is the aim of life to attain happiness?
Attain happiness. Now, this is, whoever asked this will be knowing, all of us are seeking happiness. It's our aim to find happiness. Some find happiness in sannyas. Some find happiness in becoming billionaires. So, finally what we are seeking is happiness. But we have discovered that the happiness that always remains with us is not that which can be lost when the share markets fall, like they're doing now, or when the dollar and Indian rupee values are coming down. Now that brings about a lot of agitation. So that's not the way to happiness. The way to happiness is to remain sarvatra samabuddhaya, as they said in the Gita, to keep the mind tranquil under all circumstances. If that is there, then one has found what one is searching for. But certainly one is searching for happiness. There is no question about that.
I guess 2-3 more
And
questions.
that happiness is actually not outside there, it is here. You know the famous story of the Kasturi Murga that Kabir Das said about. He said, there is a particular variety of deer, sorry I'm not running this, particular variety of deer called the Kasturi Murga. Every year, every season it produces musk in a small pouch near his belly. And when the beautiful fragrance of the kasturi comes out, wafts in the air, the poor deer, now I'm using the word deer, D-E-A-R, the poor deer goes around looking everywhere in the fences, putting its snout through thorny bushes and bleeding, not knowing that the origin of the fragrance is here, in its navel. In the same way, true happiness is here, and we keep searching for it everywhere. And if we don't find it here, however happiness we find there is no point, because we are miserable. I know, I meet all kinds of people in my life, big people. I'm not saying that we should not build up things, we should not have innovations. It's all wonderful, it's the mind expanding. But remember that true happiness does not come through any of these things, but only through the inner. And therefore, certainly we are searching for happiness.
So related to happiness, one of the students has asked a very interesting question. How do we move on after a heartbreak?
This is old KL Saigal song, जब दिल ही टूट गया जी के क्या करें. Now, it's a good question actually. It's very difficult when the heart breaks to move out. I would say that in my experience, instead of trying to move out of that heartbreak, can we stay in that and explore our mind and see how it is at this point? When there is no, when what you consider dear has run away somewhere, and you feel lost and empty, and you don't know, that's the heartbreak, right? And then you're wondering, now what? And then instead of getting agitated about it, look into your mind and see, how is the mind reacting to this? Is there a possibility that I can stay calm and tranquil in spite of this heartbreak? Huh? it needs a lot of self-examination. It's not so easy. The only thing that is not recommended, that because the heart is broken, don't try to mend it with the spirit that comes in bottles. Then the heartbreak becomes worse, then the body break, then the brain break. You know what I mean. So live with it for some time so that you learn how to handle it. Well, it helps if you have someone who can advise you, who can guide you, who can say, hey, don't worry, I have also had a heartbreak. Sit down, let us discuss this matter.
Sir, I'm interested to, I think, the last question perhaps.
Thank you so
many
much.
Questions.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. One last question.
You can mail me the question.
Okay, sir. Many people are asking this, sir, that you do not come to Delhi as frequently. And then they're guessing what is the reason.
Now, what to do? That I've not come to Delhi doesn't mean I'm not traveling. I'm traveling to the rest of the country, rest of the world, rest of the country. So I'm not getting time. Now, to be honest, I'm afraid of coming to Delhi and dying of air pollution. Can you all do something about this and clear this pollution? Really, can we do something? I've been saying this to everyone, from the person who is sitting at the top to all the people. Please do something about this. Air is so important to breathe, and we don't have it. Sunanda and I, my wife and I, some 15 years ago or so, we went to mainland China. It was so polluted, so full of fog, dark. Recently, 3 years ago, somebody went to China and came back. There is nothing, everything is clear. How did they do it? So I think some Chinese experts have come, they are looking into the matter, because only they know how to do these things. Like if you call experts from Switzerland, what will they do? There is no pollution there. They don't know what. So this is happening, and I hope, I have one or two suggestions. I may not be right, I don't know. The power, what is that called? Power stations, they have been removed now, I think, most of them out of the city. Change all the cars, automobiles, everything into electric. Half the problem. And then, too much of buildings should be stopped. Lot of unauthorized constructions going on. I'm saying unauthorized and authorized both have to be stopped. Move the constructions out, away from the city. These are some of the things that we can practically do. Otherwise, soon everybody will be walking around with a portable oxygen apparatus. I mean, this is not the right thing to do. And please remember, this is Indraprastha. This is Indraprastha. You cannot afford to keep Indraprastha like this. One has to do something. Volunteer work is welcome. We have to work together for this.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you for your time.
I am very sorry that I have not been able to spend a little more time with you all. But then I promise next time I won't spend, I'll come more frequent. Like in March, we have a book launch. So I should be back in March, and then we can discuss more probably. And I'm hoping that next year Delhi will be free of pollution. Let's see. I'm hoping. Thank you. Thank you very much. Namaskar.